Under the Egyptian stars, a tranquil bedtime journey. The moonlit banks of the Nile. The Nile lay still and tranquil beneath the soft silver glow of the moon, its dark waters rippling gently, as if it were a living being, whispering tales from ages long past. A lone fisherman sat in his small wooden boat, the only sound the occasional splash of the oar as it cut through the water. His weathered hands rested on the side of the boat, letting the slow current rock him back and forth. The rhythmic motion lulled him, and the worries of the world seemed to disappear, carried away by the flow of the river. In the distance, the soft hum of temple priests floated on the cool night air, their voices rising and falling in a chant, offering prayers to the gods. The ancient rhythm of their song blended seamlessly with the breeze that stirred the tall reeds on the riverbank, carrying with it the scent of blooming lotus flowers and the earthiness of the riverbed. Above him, the sky was a canvas of stars, each one sparkling with an almost mystical glow. The constellations, like forgotten jewels, shone with the wisdom of millennia, casting their light across the land, touching the waters below. The moon, high in the sky, bathed the world in a silvery glow, softening the harsh lines of reality, turning the night into something ethereal. As the fisherman's eyelids grew heavy, he felt a strange sensation, one he had felt many times before but had never truly understood. It was as though the river itself was speaking to him, guiding him. His boat drifted further out into the calm waters, the current now carrying him effortlessly, as if the river's ancient whispers were urging him to let go and surrender to the dreamlike world that awaited. The world around him began to blur, the edges of his reality softening as his mind drifted. The stars above, the moonlight on the water, the hum of the priests, they all melded together, forming a story older than time itself. The fisherman closed his eyes for a brief moment, and in that fleeting instant, he was no longer alone on the river. He was floating alongside the souls of the past, watching as their secrets unfolded like the petals of a lotus, revealing forgotten stories from long ago. Time, as it often does in dreams, no longer held any meaning. The fisherman's mind wandered through a world where time itself had no boundaries. He drifted through ancient cities, over crumbled temples, and across lands that once stood as the heart of civilization. He could hear the voices of those who had walked before him, their whispers mingling with the gentle sound of the river. In the silence of the night, the moonlit waters cradled him like a child in its arms, rocking him into deeper sleep. His body lay still in the boat, but his spirit soared on a journey of discovery, one that could only exist beneath the sacred, watchful stars of Egypt. The oasis of forgotten dreams. In the heart of the vast desert, where the golden sands stretched endlessly toward the horizon, a hidden oasis lay in peaceful stillness beneath a velvet sky. The night air was cool and dry, carrying with it the faintest whispers of the world beyond. The stars above sparkled like scattered gems, casting a soft light over the oasis, which appeared as though it had been untouched by time. A weary traveler stumbled upon the secret haven, his steps slow and heavy with exhaustion. The desert had tested him, and the endless miles had worn his body thin. His eyes were sunken, his skin weathered from the relentless heat of the day. But as he approached the oasis, a strange sense of peace washed over him. He knelt beside the crystal-clear water, its surface like a mirror, reflecting the stars above with perfect clarity. He cupped his hands, drinking deeply from the cool, refreshing depths. The water seemed to revive him, not just quenching his thirst, but soothing something deeper within. The scent of blooming lotus flowers filled the air, their petals glowing softly in the moonlight. their fragrance wrapped around him like a forgotten memory, sweet, calming, and comforting, as if they carried the wisdom of an ancient world long lost. The traveler sat back, feeling the coolness of the desert night settle over his body. The palm trees surrounding the oasis swayed gently in the evening breeze, their long fronds rustling softly, as if they were whispering to one another. The wind carried their murmurs to the traveler's ears, and he listened closely, hearing the faintest echoes of stories long forgotten, tales of nomads who had passed through, of pharaohs who had once sought refuge beneath these very trees, and of dreamers who, like him, had come to find solace in this quiet sanctuary. As the traveler lay back on the soft sand, his gaze turned upward to the moonlit sky. The world seemed to fall away, and for a brief moment, there was no desert, no exhaustion, no journey, only the vast, peaceful expanse of the night around him. The cool air, the rustling palms, and the still water all blended together into a symphony of calm. His eyes fluttered shut, and his breath grew steady and slow. In that moment, his mind drifted. The sands of time began to blur, and he felt himself slipping into a dream. He was no longer just a traveler in the desert. He was walking alongside those who had come before him. He saw their faces, felt their stories, and heard their voices merging with the rustling leaves and the distant whispers of past. He was a part of something ancient, something eternal, and as the dream enveloped him, he realized that the oasis was not merely a place. It was a bridge between the past and the present, a place where time itself was suspended in perfect harmony. The traveler let go, surrendering to the dream that seemed to flow through him like the cool water of the oasis. And in that serene, peaceful place, he slept, wrapped in the embrace of the oasis, where the sand of the desert could never touch him again. The sleeping gods of Karnak. The ruins of Karnak stood in solemn silence, their towering columns reaching up toward the night sky, bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight. The sacred stones, worn by time yet still regal, whispered secrets of a forgotten era, as if the temple itself carried the memory of centuries past. The night air was cool and still, broken only by the faint rustling of the wind through the ancient palm trees surrounding the temple. A lone stargazer wandered through the ruins, his footsteps soft on the ground, his gaze drawn upward to the immense structures that once thrived with life and reverence. He traced his fingers lightly along the cool, weathered stone, feeling the history embedded in each crack and curve. His mind seemed to wander with each touch, imagining the voices that once filled these halls, priests chanting prayers, offerings being made, and the sacred rituals that took place beneath the watchful eyes of the gods. As he moved deeper into the temple, the shadows of towering statues cast long, quiet figures across the stone floor. The gods, carved in stone and set in eternal watch, seemed to regard him with a calm, unblinking gaze. Their eyes, though lifeless, held a quiet power, their expressions stoic and serene, as if they were guardians of past, silently observing all who dared to enter their domain. The stargazer paused before one such statue, a great figure of Ammon-Ra, the king of the gods, and he could almost feel the weight of the gods' gaze upon him, a presence so vast it seemed to stretch across time itself. The wind, gentle and cool, stirred the air, carrying with it a haunting melody, a lullaby that seemed to rise from the depths of time. It was as if the very stones of the temple hummed with the echoes of prayers and songs long forgotten, a song of devotion and peace that had once filled the air during sacred ceremonies. The stargazer closed his eyes, listening to the soft whispers of the past, letting the lullaby wash over him like a blanket of calm. As he stood there, in the heart of the ancient temple, he felt the weight of history surround him. The once vibrant halls were now quiet, their golden torches extinguished, but in his mind, the temple began to shift. The stone columns seemed to come alive, glowing with the light of countless torches, casting flickering shadows across the sacred space. The air was filled with the sound of music and voices, priests singing in reverence, the sweet sound of instruments playing, and the rustle of flowing robes as they moved with grace through the temple. The stargazer felt himself drawn deeper into this vision, his body still in the present, but his spirit carried into the past. The temple was alive once more, vibrant and full of life. He could hear the clinking of gold and the soft murmur of prayers being whispered to the gods. In this dream, he walked alongside those who had come before him, priests, worshippers, and the eternal gods themselves. As the vision began to fade, the stargazer felt a deep sense of peace settle over him. The temple, though empty now, would always remain a place of sacred devotion. With a deep breath, he opened his eyes, and the quiet ruins of Karnak stood before him once more, silent, still, but full of the weight of eternity. The lullaby of the past lingered in his heart as he left the temple, knowing that, in the quiet darkness of the night, the gods of Karnak still watched over him and all who sought the peace of their ancient sanctuary. The sand dunes lullaby. The vast desert stretched endlessly before him, its golden dunes rolling like waves under the watchful gaze of the night sky. The air was cool and still, but the earth seemed to hum with a quiet energy, as if the sands themselves were alive, shifting slowly beneath the weight of time. Above, the stars sparkled in a silent symphony, each one a silent witness to the secrets of the world. A lone nomad sat by a quiet fire, the flickering flames casting long shadows across the sands. His camel rested nearby, its head bowed, the creature at ease after the long day's journey. The only sounds were the crackle of the fire and the occasional whisper of the wind as it stirred the sand. The desert was alive in its own way, a place of ancient silence, where the world seemed to hold its breath. As the nomads stared into the flames, the wind began to hum, carrying with it a melody. It was soft, gentle, and ancient, almost like a lullaby that had been passed down through generations. The breeze danced through the dunes, creating ripples in the sand that seemed to tell stories from long ago, tales of lost cities, ancient travelers who had wandered these same paths, and spirits that had crossed the desert long before him. The wind carried these memories in its whispers, wrapping around him like a comforting presence, reminding him that he was never truly alone in this vast, desolate place. The warmth of the fire softened his senses, and he closed his eyes for a moment, letting the desert's lullaby wash over him. He could almost hear the voices of those who had walked this land before him, the nomads, the kings, the dreamers. They were with him now, in the soft rustle of the wind and the silent stillness of the night. The nomad could feel their presence, not as a burden or a warning, but as a comforting embrace, like unseen guardians watching over him as he continued his journey across the endless sands. He took a deep breath, letting the cool desert air fill his lungs. The stars overhead seemed to blink down at him, their light guiding him toward the peace he sought. The fire crackled one last time, sending a small spark into the air before it faded, leaving only the soft glow of embers in the stillness of the night. With a final sigh, the nomad allowed himself to surrender to the desert's embrace. The wind, the fire, and the stars all seemed to lull him into a peaceful slumber, as if the desert itself cradled him in its timeless arms. He could feel the soft pulse of the earth beneath him, the sand giving way like a gentle mattress. The vastness of the desert no longer felt empty or cold, but alive, filled with the comforting whispers of ages past. As sleep took him, the desert's lullaby continued to hum softly in the distance, carrying him on a dreamlike journey through the endless dunes, where time had no meaning, and the spirit of the desert guided him through realms beyond the waking world.